Welcome back to the C Morning Show, everyone. And in continuation of our C Today business segment, we're now up for our first discussion of the day. And we are going to talk about emergency funds. Yes, something that we don't like to think about, but it is quite necessary. And as we know, there are many uncertainties and unexpected events in life. They can range from medical emergencies, some unexpected home renovations, or even job layoffs. And this is where the so-called emergency funds can come into play, right, Karina?
That is right, Paul. However, it's not only about saving money, since a degree of wisdom, like Paul would always teach me, is required to effectively pool emergency funds. And today we aim to find out how we can ensure that emergency funds are stored safely, but also remain accessible anytime. And to find out, let's welcome personal finance enthusiast, Dani Rachmat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Dani, welcome back. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So let's just get straight onto it. I feel like Paul has more experience in me than this. But from your perspective, how important is it to have emergency funds, especially for us, the younger generations, who may not really think about it at first hand? Is it important? Are they important for those who are not yet married, already married, just married?
Yeah, actually, emergency fund is the fundamental of your finances. So that is the very first thing that we have to have, the emergency fund. Why? Because as Paul said that it comes in play when we are in emergency.
Right.
But then the question is, what is the emergency situation that we will face, that we will need that emergency fund?
Right.
Yeah.
So many people say that, oh, my phone broken, and then I need to buy a new one.
That's a good point. Yeah. What constitutes an emergency?
Yeah.
Even when you admitted to hospital,
Yes.
actually that is not the emergency situation.
Really?
Because you still have the insurance
Right.
that you can use to pay the hospital bills.
Correct.
But then maybe you will need that emergency funds temporarily. So yeah.
So so what actually does constitute an emergency then?
When you lose your job and
Okay.
you don't have that income, that is why we save that emergency fund, so that it can, float us until we get the new job, until we
Right.
get the new income.
Okay.
But maybe nowadays, people think that getting money is that easy. We can use social media, we can use so many sources of income.
Yes.
So maybe they don't think that emergency fund is that important, but actually that is still very important.
So we should define it more as a financial emergency as opposed to emergency,
Yes.
because when we think of hospitals, we already immediately think
Yeah,
of emergencies,
emergency.
right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the differences between having an ideal amount for an emergency fund or a realistic amount. Because I find that a lot of times when we say, well, ideally you want to have a year's salary, but who realistically can have a year's salary without touching it at all? So maybe you could give us an idea of what an ideal amount is, but what are some of the more realistic ranges that we can look at and how we can kind of find a happy medium?
The teaching of the financial planning, the personal finance, is that the emergency fund should be saved in 12 times of salary, of monthly salary a year,
Right.
in an instrument that is accessible, that is stable, and that is very safe. And that is very hard to achieve, 12 times of our salary. So
Agreed.
realistically, just target for 1 month of expenses.
Okay.
At least you have to be able to finance your expenses first, right?
Float yourself.
Because for salary, it also cover the investment, also cover the saving and everything. But expenses, 1 month of your expenses minimum.
Yeah.
That is the minimum amount.
Okay.
So
It's attainable.
yeah,
That's
doable,
doable.
right?
Yeah. Because if you right away say, hey, you got to put away 12 months salary,
So
bye-bye to the next year.
People will say
Yeah.
that, oh, that is too hard. No, I just enjoy my life.
Right.
And becoming the doom spender.
Yeah.
So that 1 month of your expenses, and then if possible, just achieve that 3 months. Because usually when you lose a job and maybe you want to switch career,
Takes time.
it takes like 3 months from sending your resume and then interview and signing and everything.
Okay.
Around 3 months.
Okay.
But then if you want to be really safe, maybe up until 6 months. After 6 months, you can just invest more aggressively. But in my point of view, that 6 months is already too high. So maybe 3 months is already enough. And then you can allocate that money more into investment in the more aggressive instrument.
Ah, okay. Now, speaking of that, what would be the most efficient way to save up for this emergency funds? Is it just keeping it in our bank account, or would it be better to invest, to have something multiply over time, and then use that, reserve that specifically as an emergency fund? Or
Yeah, the first thing that we have to do is to save up until we get that 1 month to up to
Yep.
3 months emergency
Okay.
fund.
And you can work on that slowly, right? You can
Yes.
start at
Yeah.
1 month, and then when you hit 1, then you can aim for 3 and
Yes.
so on. Okay.
baby
But then
steps.
putting your money in your bank account for the emergency fund is very dangerous. Why?
Why is that?
Because
Oh,
the
it's
trust is
accessible.
yourself.
It's accessible, right, right.
It's
got it.
Yeah.
easily accessible. So find something that is not that easily accessible. Maybe use the money market fund, or in Indonesian reksadana pasar uang.
Okay.
So that you still have to move your money,
Yeah.
but it is easily accessible. For money market fund, you can like use it like in maybe on the same day. So many products that can be accessed on the same day, but then maybe you have to wait like 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Okay.
For those 2 or 3 days, you can utilize your credit card.
Right.
Credit card in this pay later era where people can get money so easily,
Yeah.
credit card is like gold if you know how to use it.
Absolutely. I agree.
Because when you
Yeah.
use credit card, you will not be billed directly
Yeah.
on the same day when you use it, right?
You have a billing cycle.
Yes.
Cycle,
You
yeah.
have that billing cycle. So before the billing cycle due, you can always use that money you save in the money market fund.
Right.
Yeah.
You sell that money market fund, and then when you receive the money, you can pay the
So
credit card.
moves around,
It's
right?
basically a free loan as long as you pay off the entire balance.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Right.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes.
So, speaking of which, do you get penalized when you remove money from a money market fund?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay.
You can always buy, and then you can always sell anytime.
Oh.
Unlike the time deposit in
Correct.
your bank.
Yes.
Because when you take that 1 month time deposit and then you break before, you will penalize.
Yes.
Yeah.
But for money market fund, no.
No.
You can sell it anytime.
Okay, so this is great for me because I put my money in deposit. I put it in monthly deposits, and it's quite inflexible. Like
And-
I find it really difficult.
Yeah, and anyway, for the difference between time deposit and also money market fund, for time deposit, you can only save as much as you can, right?
Yes.
But then in the money market fund, the fund manager will pull the money from people that want to save their money in
In the same.
time deposit actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the fundamental of money market fund is also time deposit.
Okay.
But because the money that the fund manager put in the time deposit is way bigger than
It's a
what you
whole
can
pool
do,
of many people.
I see.
than what we individually can do, they will receive higher interest
Higher
rate.
interest.
Higher interest.
Yes.
Oh,
that's
that's how
some
that
good
works.
Yes.
Okay.
For example, if you put your money in the time deposit, you get like what 5.25%.
At most, anywhere 5.5
Yes,
to 6%.
with 20% tax.
Yes.
So you only
Correct.
get 80% of the interest rate.
That's right.
While in the money market fund, you can get 5.25 already net of tax.
Oh, wow.
So a bit higher.
And risk-wise, I suppose it's the same because it's actually
Yes.
the same instrument.
Yeah.
A bit higher because you did not get that, what is it, jaminan LPS.
Oh,
The
okay.
guarantee
The
from
guaranteed.
the-
Yeah, the
yes.
guarantee. Yeah. Okay. got
It is not guaranteed, but the instrument is still the same
Right.
in the time deposit. And then also, some of the fund can also be placed in the government bond that is matured in less than a year.
That's right.
So it is higher.
Okay.
So that is why for emergency fund, I always say do not use time deposit, just use money market fund.
Okay.
You will get more return, you will get more flexibility, and you can use it anytime.
Okay, let's talk about liquidity then, because in a money market fund, it seems quite liquid. I mean, 2 to 3
It is
days,
very liquid.
right?
Yeah.
So many funds nowadays can also be sold on the same day, and you get the money on the same day.
Okay.
Before you will need like 2 to 3 days. There are still some funds that needs that time. But then some funds, maybe if you see like lightning icon in the money market funds
Right.
that they sell, that indicate that it can be sold on the same day. You will receive the money on the same day.
That logo.
Instant,
did-
yes.
The indicator.
So let's talk about liquidity in the sense of how liquid is too liquid. Because again, if Karina breaks her phone and she's like, "Oh my, it's an emergency! I can't post any content. I need money immediately." Is it actually bad to have something that's too liquid? Because we are talking about emergencies, right?
Yes.
And we are tempted sometimes
Yeah.
to use some of these funds.
So I will have to ask you the questions.
Okay.
Actually, how many times do you face that emergency situation that you
A real
have to
financial
use?
emergency.
Yes, that you have to use.
I have to admit, the amount of times I've dipped into my so-called emergency funds that I keep in a separate account and a term deposit, much more than actual financial emergencies. Yes, I don't really have that many financial emergencies over the past few
Yeah,
years.
for the things that actually you cannot find another way to finance it.
Right. COVID was
Yeah.
a finance emergency for
Yes.
me.
Yeah,
But I think outside of
yeah.
that, I haven't really had a
Yeah.
real emergency. How about
Because
No,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
No,
I have some
Yeah.
clients that they even save up until 12 times of their salary,
Right.
not only expenses,
they
but
don't-
salary. And then I ask them, where did you put it in the time deposit and also in the saving account? How many times do you have to use that in the real emergency situation?
yeah.
Out of the 10 years, they never even have to use that.
Wow.
Oh,
So
could have
your
easily
money
invested.
sitting there doing
Yeah.
nothing, they're sleeping in your bank account
Yeah.
while you have to still work hard and yeah.
Earning minimal interest. So the money's not
Yes.
working for you in that
Yeah.
sense, right? Okay.
Because if we're talking about like an emergency, like breaking a phone, it's also something that you can buy as an installment, right?
Yes.
So it's not.
You
That's
can
a
use
good
credit
point.
card
That's a
and
good point.
0%
You
interest.
need to, yeah, and
Yeah.
they have lots of
Yes.
that now.
Okay. So how often do we need to revisit and review how much emergency funds we need? Because, for example, Karina, congratulations, getting married soon. Hopefully to have kids soon
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
That all changes. For me, it changed when I started having kids as well, thinking about, okay, in at least 2 or 3 years, they'll be going to preschool, and then another one came along. How often do we need to revisit our needs for
Once a year is ideal,
Okay.
but then if you cannot do it, once a year is already, that
Okay.
long anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then, anyway, when you entering new phase of life, maybe that is the
Time to revisit.
time to review,
yeah.
to revisit, because when you're single, your expense will different
That's
than
true.
when you're married, right?
Okay.
Your household expenses will be higher if you have kids,
Right.
So maybe that is the time to revisit that calculation.
And speaking of being married, should there be a difference if you have a dual income family in regards to
Of
target for
course.
emergency funds? How so?
Of course, because the dual income family, it will also depend on how you manage the finances.
Okay.
Whether you combine or whether you do separately, and then how much is the expenses that actually you spend every month.
Okay.
Yeah. So of course,
Should it be easier to have emergency funds set up if you have dual income because the risk of both people losing their jobs at the same time, for
It's
example, would
lower,
be a little
yeah.
bit lower, right?
yes, of
So
course.
there's a little bit more flexibility.
Yes,
there.
more flexibility because for maybe one income you can focus on the investing and then one income to build the,
To the emergency fund. Oh, that's actually
Yeah.
a good tip.
Okay.
Just a quick question. For me
Asking
personally.
for a friend. Oh, okay. You're admitting it. You're admitting
No,
it.
I'm not. Before you actually dip into your emergency fund, how much time should you really think it through and consider if whether or not you should
Good question.
open that emergency fund?
Yeah, actually, when you lose a job, you still have that maybe some spare money before you have to dip that into
Yeah.
emergency fund, right? And then if you already maybe saved up until 6 months of the emergency fund, you will not use them all right away, right?
Yeah.
So for the first month, maybe you will just take that what you need
Yep.
on that particular time. So then you will not spend everything. Who knows that after you take like half of the expenses that you need, and then you get
Get a job.
right away.
Okay.
So what people always think is that I have to save up until 12 times of my salary, and then when emergency I can get everything right away.
Yeah.
But that is not the way how to use your emergency fund.
Okay.
Just use as you need.
Okay.
So that is why you can, stay safe longer.
Secure. Yeah, more security.
Yeah.
So in the case of somebody who is disciplined enough to have put away 1 year's salary worth of emergency funds, is there an advantage to splitting up the instruments so that they're perhaps, I find that this is something that I do in my head. I like to break things up so that if I do have to go into something, I'm not breaking up the entire thing. So I'm just kind of, let's say I have 5 different instruments. At least I'm breaking into one and I'm leaving the rest. Is there a benefit to that or not?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course. Like, for example, if you already have that 12 times of your salary for 1 year salary, then maybe you can put that 3 months in the money market fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time deposit, okay, one times of your salary, and then 2 months of your salary in the money market fund, and then the rest you can save up in gold.
Oh, okay.
Just in case there is crisis in
or
the gold.
fluctuations in in the market.
And then why don't you just put the rest of it, like 6 months of the salary, in the stock market?
Oh,
in the blue chip stock market, maybe
something safer, I suppose.
something,
safe.
yeah.
Okay.
I was just about to mention a stock ticker, but
We'll talk about that off air. Okay. So, any tips for? I feel like I ask you this question all the time, but perhaps the viewers that are new to this as well, maybe we can get a quick review on how somebody can get started, at least, because I know many people out there probably don't have an emergency fund, on how they can get started. Because 12 months salary, again, is like a huge mountain to climb.
Yes.
But what can we do with a monthly salary to start putting away emergency funds realistically?
Yeah, and even like someone who's transitioning from single to married
Yes.
life,
Yes.
right? How do we
Asking for a
move
friend.
into that?
The mantra is simple: budgeting, budgeting, budgeting. And the budgeting is also simple. 10% of the salary should go into that emergency fund first,
Okay.
up until you have that 1 month of income, 3 months of income, and then after that you can start use that 10% of the salary to investing.
Okay.
But that 10% is minimum. So you can increase 10 to 20% or 30% of your salary for emergency fund, building emergency fund, and then you can use it for investing. So 20 to 30%. Maybe if you use 20% and then the rest, 30% is for debt servicing. If you have debt, pay later and everything, 30% of your salary, never go beyond that. And then the 50%, the rest of 50%, you can use it for your daily life necessity.
Okay. So how much of our monthly salary should be for expenses? Is it 30 to 50%, something like that?
50% is maximum.
Is maximum. Okay. So if you put away 10% of your salary and you're trying to do, I'm trying to do some quick math here.
Yeah.
And if you want to cover at least 12 months of expenses, it should take you a couple of years
Yes.
to get to where you need.
Maybe even forever.
Depending how
That's
quickly.
that's a very positive.
But yeah, if you're very disciplined for 2 years, you should get like at least half a year's salary there.
Yeah, and I want to highlight that 30% that for debt servicing,
Okay.
that is also for the things that you want to, indulge yourself.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So if you want to indulge yourself, make sure that you don't have any debt.
Yeah.
I see.
But if you have any debt, just
first.
Yes,
That's number
first.
1. Okay.
Just don't say that I want to reward myself. No,
Yeah.
you don't have self-reward if
It's
you
been a
still
bad
have-
day. I
No
wanna
retail
reward
therapy.
myself.
Just pay the mortgage, pay the car loan, pay the credit card. Then, if you have anything left over,
and that emergency fund.
there you go.
Yes.
And the emergency
And
fund.
the
Then you can
emergency
enjoy.
fund.
Dani, it's always a great pleasure talking to you.
you so
And this
much.
is a very important issue that I think many people try to put off because emergencies don't happen often. But when they do, you'll be thankful that we've had this
Yes.
conversation with us, Dani.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Thank you
coming on
very
the
much.
program.
Thank you again,
Thank
once
you.
again, Dani.
All right, that's it for our talk show for now. We're going to have another discussion for you later on, including a live performance. Make sure you stay tuned for that. But coming up after the break, here at the halfway point of our program, in case you did join us late, we're going to bring you stories from all around the world. Stay with us right here on the C Morning Show. Keep it here on C Today.
He's thinking about.
I'm thinking about money. I got too much numbers running through my head. We'll be back, guys.